The Chicago Bears never really made a concerted effort to replace starting linebacker Jack Sanborn, who they let walk in free agency. So is that new linebacker starter going to be one of the young guys on the roster, or does Ryan Poles still need to go out and add somebody?
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lauren Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1, and you can follow the podcast at Locked On Bears on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and the Locked On Bears YouTube channel, where you can keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. On the show today, we look at the Chicago Bears options at the linebacker spot next to TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. It's kind of the one traditional starting roster spot up for grabs on defense, and really the only one of only two on the team besides left tackle on offense. But Ben Johnson in particular seemed to indicate an early front runner at that position, but also didn't rule out the possibility of adding more at that spot. So we'll talk about what they have right now, where rookie fourth round pick Ruben Hyppolite fits in that conversation, what kind of outside options they could have. And then I want to circle around to another draft pick on defense, Zay Frasier, and his relationship with Al Harris has been a really interesting development coming out of rookie minicamp, and something that I think we need to pay a little bit extra close attention to moving forward at that cornerback position. But I want to start at linebacker, where Sanborn walks in free agency. The Bears choose not to bring him back on a restricted free agent tender. He signs with Matt Eberflus and the Dallas Cowboys, and we hear Dennis Allen say, well, we want to get faster on defense. That's been kind of the offseason slogan, if you will, of trying to add some speed on defense. Part of why they drafted Ruben Hippolite in the fourth round is as a fast linebacker, and we'll get to him in a little bit here. But, okay, maybe the feeling was like maybe Sanborn doesn't have quite the amount of athleticism that the Bears want at that position, but then they didn't go out and make a real effort to replace him. I mean, Hippolite in the fourth round, is that plan A? You draft a fourth round rookie and say, all right, small school, well, not small school, but sort of inexperienced at times in college, like kind of not a highly touted draft pick. I think that's the words I'm looking for. Not a highly touted draft pick, and you're going to come in and start right away as rookie. That doesn't seem to be Ben Johnson's idea of a plan A just yet. And he's not handing anybody the job specifically, but when asked about what he's got at that position, he name dropped one player and didn't mention any others, and that to me feels significant.
How do you feel about the options you have at strong side linebacker, like overall, not this weekend, but taking a look at it? Is that guy in the building right now? Are you confident in that?
We'll find out. We certainly have an open competition. We feel really good, obviously, about TJ and Tremaine and what they've done over the course, not just last year, but the last few years in this league. Really comfortable there. But that third spot, it's up for grabs. And so we do have a prototype. DA's got a prototype for what that Sam would look like. We're more concerned, let's find our third best linebacker, and we'll figure it out from there. We got a lot of scenarios going on in our heads right now of what that could be, but we won't know for sure until we get the pads on. Obviously, Noah Sewell's been in the building, and he's shown a lot of good things over the last few weeks, and we've got a good mix of other guys in that room as well.
So Noah Sewell gets name dropped, and you try not to read too much into that, right? Because he didn't clearly say, Noah Sewell is going to be the starting linebacker, but it does feel relevant that, Sewell has been here. But the Bears also brought back linebacker Amen Onbongbemiga, who was part of this Bears team last year. Like both Sewell and Onbongbemiga have been here before. Sewell wasn't the only one in that mix. I suppose Sewell has been a part of this team longer, and so he's probably the longest tenured of that group of the linebackers, and so maybe that's why he gets sort of the nod there, but also, a fifth round pick. But I don't kind of get the sense that either of those guys stand out as plan A, we're really happy with them as our starting linebacker option moving forward. I mean, you look at Noah Sewell's career, yes, he's been around the Bears the longest, but in terms of like how many snaps he has actually played on the field on defense in 2 full seasons, it's been 32 plays. He appeared on defense in 3 games this past season for a total of 5 snaps. He's been almost exclusively a special teams player on the games that he's even been active, and there have been games where he's been inactive as well. That was 10 snaps fewer than Amen Anbagbamiga last year, who played 15 snaps on defense in 5 games. He had played 100 snaps his rookie season on defense with the Los Angeles Chargers way back in 2021, but like neither of these guys really has any sort of notable NFL linebacker experience that makes you feel like, wow, they're ready to step into the starting role here next to Edwards and Edmonds, albeit a smaller starting role next to Edwards and Edmonds, but still, and not just a special teams backup player. So then, does that mean 4th round pick Ruben Hyppolite comes in and takes over? I mean, he was a starter in college, but I mean, so were Sewell and Anbagbamiga. Every college player coming to the NFL is going to be a starter in college. So there's just not a natural, clear front runner option there, which makes you think about the potential of going outside the organization for a free agent. And we'll look at some free agent linebackers in a minute here. But I also think it's important to keep in mind Dennis Allen as the role, in his role in all of this. That we've seen Dennis Allen's Saints defense fluctuate quite a bit in terms of just how big this number 3 linebacker is in the defense, depending on the personnel that they've had. I mean, Ben Johnson said they have kind of a prototype they might prefer for a strong side linebacker, but there have been times in Dennis Allen's defense where they'll just more opt for a safety, like a 3rd safety, to come down and be in the box in that sort of star position. Like if you look back in 2023, the Saints really only used 2 linebackers for the vast majority of that season. The 3rd linebacker on the defense played 60 snaps over the course of the year. They just really didn't. The 2 starters played 1,000 snaps, and the number 3 player played 60 snaps. But they used 3 safeties when they had Tyrann Mathieu and Jordan Howden, and then Marcus May was injured a little bit that season. So then Jonathan Abram and Lonnie Johnson kind of rotated in there. But they just said, you know what? Screw it. Instead of 3 linebackers, we'll just use 3 safeties. And like in those base defense situations, we'll have that 3rd safety come into the box. And maybe it's your more physical, strong safety type, but maybe that's a situation where the Bears say, hey, could you just put Jaquan Brisker in? Like, you're not moving him to linebacker. He's still going to play safety. But when offenses get heavier, do you just make him a linebacker on those plays and then bring in another safety like Elijah Hicks or Jonathan Owens on the back end? Or instead of signing a free agent linebacker, do you sign a free agent safety to play that role? Because briefly, when you look at the free agent safety market, there are 3 former New Orleans Saints starting safeties still sitting in free agency that all played for Dennis Allen. You got Marcus Williams, who most recently was with the Baltimore Ravens. You have Marcus May, who I just mentioned earlier, most recently with the Chargers. And then there's also Von Bell, who was the Saints' 2nd round pick in 2016, who was with the Cincinnati Bengals last season. I could see the Bears opting to say, you know what, maybe we don't like our linebacker options, but we want more safety depth anyway, so we could sign one of those players and then either have one of those guys or Brisker kind of play that hybrid safety linebacker position sometimes, but Brisker and Byard would still be the starter, but then the 3rd safety would come in when he goes to linebacker. I think Dennis Allen has some options here, and they're going to see how these guys all perform at OTAs and minicamp and say, okay, you know, if one of these young linebackers steps up, hey, you know, good to go there. We don't need to bother with the 3 safety thing. Or if none of these linebackers are very good, but Elijah Hicks plays really well, okay, then you know they've got some different options in their back pocket. They don't need to decide right away. They do want to give these guys a chance to show what they can do. And so I'm curious how Ruben Hyppolite presents himself as kind of the wild card of this. Maybe we kind of know what Noah Sewell is and isn't, and maybe we kind of know what Amen Anbagbamiga is and isn't. But Hyppolite, he's the new face. He's Dennis Allen's pick, and he's got some different skills than what those guys have. So I want to go into Ruben Hippolite's story a little bit here and where he fits in this defense, and then get into some potential free agent options if it's not going to be Hippolite next on Locked On Bears. This episode of Locked On Bears is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. So whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action with FanDuel. Whether it's before tip-off or live during the game, their player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays give you more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Or if the NBA playoffs aren't your thing, that's totally fine. You can bet on this upcoming football season. You can bet on Colston Loveland or Luther Burden as Offensive Rookie of the Year. You can bet on the Bears win total and other player prop bets, all in a FanDuel app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets added to your account on top of the winnings for your $5 bet. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. So I think Ruben Hyppolite has sort of the highest volatility here, where he could either be a real home run, diamond in the rough fourth-round pick who steps in and looks like he's ready to start right away as a rookie, and it's like, wow, what a great find there in the fourth round that no one saw coming. Or he could be a player that was projected largely by draft media to be an undrafted player who was taken in the fourth round of the draft a lot earlier than any of us expected on the outside, and he could take the field and look like an undrafted free agent quality player and not like a fourth round pick and be nowhere near ready to start week one of his rookie season and anywhere in between. And I think he's the only player of that group that kind of has that wide range. Like, not that like Noah Sewell has had a ton of opportunities in his first two seasons, but it's not as though Jack Sanborn was the perfect linebacker that Sewell wouldn't have had an opportunity to beat out for playing time or to earn in a rotation there. Like, we just haven't seen him really take that step. And then Ogbongbemiga has really been a special teams player for the last 4 or 5 years of his career. So all of a sudden, is he going to emerge as a starting caliber player when he just hasn't really been that up to this point? Like, I find myself a little more doubtful that those guys provide us something new compared to Hippolyte that feels like something new, especially when Dennis Allen talks about wanting his defense to be faster. And one of the big knocks on Noah Sewell was a lack of speed. He ran a 4.64 in the 40-yard dash. I know the 40-yard dash is not a perfect measurement, but that is faster than Sanborn and TJ Edwards, but it is still generally slow when it comes to linebacker. So it doesn't seem like that's necessarily what Dennis Allen would want to do. And in comes Ruben Hippolite with 4.45 speed, and you can start to talk yourself into this. And yet, I certainly have plenty of Ruben Hippolite doubts given where he was evaluated in a lot of this pre-draft process. But it's easy to say, hey, Bears know more than we do, and they are smarter about football decisions than we are. And you can give Dennis Allen some benefit of the doubt that maybe he sees something that other people don't see, especially when you hear Ruben Hippolite talk about his journey. And he was asked kind of point blank about this. It's like, hey, a lot of people thought you were going to go undrafted. You're going to go in the fourth round. Like, how do you take that? And you can tell he's a very mature, thoughtful player who really he has his stuff together in his brain, in his life. Like Dennis Allen talked about, he's very business oriented. Like, this is a grown man for a rookie fourth round pick at linebacker. Here's his story.
Ruben, there's lots of post-draft coverage, on a national scale even. People thought, oh, this guy might be a 7th-round pick, a UDFA, not a 4th rounder. Do you hear those things? And if so, how do you internalize that?
Misery loves company. It's a lot of people that don't know what I had to go through to get this opportunity. You just look at my story, just not going to the combine, not going to the Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl. I had the Hula Bowl, which, I give a lot of, credit to Nick Logan for trusting in me to play in that game. But just that, and then I called the NFS twice to see if I had a combine invite. They said no. So going through that, and then just, going through training, the whole combine season, and just, chopping wood, carrying water, going through it every day, and then having my opportunity, my one opportunity at Pro Day, doing that, and then I went on 15 visits, took 30 flights in 2 weeks, just back and forth across the country, doing my meetings and stuff like that. So all of that is just a combination of, me getting this opportunity now. Definitely don't take it for granted, and very grateful for, everybody upstairs for believing in me and in my ability. Now it's time for me to put it together. And, I just love my story for anyone who's, out there who thinks that they need, things like the combine invite, the Senior Bowl invite, that who thinks that they need that to get drafted. You don't. You just got to put your best foot forward. You got to run fast, and you just got to be your best self every day. And I feel like I'm showing that. I got a lot of messages, a lot of love, a lot of hate too, but that's what comes with it. So I'm all for it.
So you can see where a guy like Ruben Hyppolite is taking a good approach to how he's sort of dealing with the fallout from the draft. And I go back and forth with this on the one sense of like, yes, we on the outside don't really know how Hyppolite was evaluated by NFL teams. And he said before he was kind of expecting that maybe the fourth-ish round or day 3, he would be drafted in there. So maybe more teams liked him more than we did. On the other hand, he wasn't invited to the Shrine Game or the Senior Bowl. Those are a lot of former NFL personnel making those evaluations. He got to the Hula Bowl. Didn't get invited to the Combine. Those are NFL people telling you, hey, you're not within this quality of crop of players at the Combine. And plus, a lot of people that do draft analysis on the outside, at least the good ones, the credible ones, have relationships with NFL scouts and teams. And when he doesn't appear as a draftable prospect on anybody's big board, there's a general, I think there's an NFL influence on that we sometimes overlook there. So also to say is like absolutely rooting for Ruben Hyppolite to prove just about everybody wrong and reward the Bears for taking him in the 4th round. But I'm not really going to count on any 4th round pick to step in and be a day 1 unquestioned starter here. And I can't help but wonder if the Bears take a look at some of the veteran free agent options that should be pretty cheap, should be pretty available, and also have some real connections to this Bears coaching staff. You look out there right now, like one of the top names that jumps for me is Quan Alexander. He was a starter for a long time for a few different teams. I think of him as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer primarily, from early in his career, but spent last season with the Detroit Lions, played a few games there, and also the Denver Broncos with Bears offensive coordinator Declan Doyle. So he's got connections to Doyle and Johnson. Both have seen him in practice and meetings at games, albeit on the other side of the ball. So there's a certain level of familiarity there and a lot of starting experience for him. Also, a couple of other former Lions from last year. Linebacker Ben Neiman was kind of this type of role for them, filled in and started a couple of games here and there in some base defense situations, but also a really good special teams player for them. And then Jalen Reeves-Maybin has been a special teams guy for them for a couple seasons, but again, a player that you're familiar with. You know how he practices, you know how he fits in a locker room, you know his leadership style, you know his habits, you know how he takes care of his body, all those things. The familiarity for any of those guys makes a lot of sense for me. I guess another former Bronco with the Declan Doyle relationship is Zach Cunningham, who was a starter for the Texans for a while, and I think the Eagles for a little bit in there. Like, there's some names out here, and these guys are going to be veteran minimum players that I just feel like you can trust and rely on a little bit more than the linebackers the Bears have. And signing into these guys doesn't keep a Ruben Hippolite type player from having a really good training camp and winning the job and taking their roster spot and kicking them back to the curb. Like, these are cheap veteran free agents that aren't going to be guaranteed much of anything. So I like the idea of adding another veteran in the mix, but leaving the competition wide open, or going the safety route that we talked about earlier, or how about both? I mean, salary cap becomes a question for those top free agent safeties we talked about. They may cost you a little bit more, and the Bears don't have a lot of cap space, especially if you also want to sign an edge rusher. And you're going to sign a safety, a linebacker, and an edge rusher all right at the start of training camp. That doesn't seem super, super likely either. So I'm curious to see how the Bears handle some of these lingering question marks on their defense. I'm also really curious to watch the development of these day 3 draft picks, of how Hippolite continues to grow, but also Zay Frasier, the cornerback from UTSA. And he's developing kind of a special connection with Bears cornerbacks coach Al Harris, who was a player in the league. And I want to hear about that selection and kind of dive in a little bit more towards how Frasier fits the mold of what Dennis Allen likes for his cornerbacks, and how his body differs a little bit from the other players the Bears have at the position, and what that means for the long-term future at that spot. Next on Locked On Bears. Zay Frasier as a 5th round pick isn't going to be realistically in the mix to start as a rookie. I mean, never say never, I guess, but if the Bears do have a competition for Tyreek Stevenson, it's going to be the guy who was rotating with him last year, Terrell Smith. Now, neither of them are Dennis Allen draft picks or Dennis Allen acquisitions. So, again, never say never, but it would be way too much to expect Zay Frasier to come in after 1 year as a college starter at cornerback at UTSA and then be an NFL starting caliber player right away as a rookie in week 1 as a 5th-round pick with legitimately quality competition players ahead of, like, Tyreek Stevenson. For as much as he has made mistakes, he's a starting caliber corner in the NFL. Right? It's not like the Bears are bad at cornerback, so maybe a 5th-round pick could sneak his way in there. No, he would have to earn it over those guys who are, quality NFL caliber cornerback. So I don't want to. I'm not ready to get carried away or anything with Zay Frasier, but I do think Al Harris's involvement with Frasier signals a little something more here. Not necessarily something more for year 1 in 2025, but a vision long-term for this player being a successful pro and maybe a future starter in this Bears defense. We heard, I don't remember if it was Dennis Allen or Ryan Poles. I think it was Ryan Poles after the draft told the story that Al Harris, the Bears cornerbacks coach, was the one who came to Poles and said, hey, there's this cornerback at UTSA. I really would love to get him. And I think we get him in the 4th round. They end up getting him in the 5th. But like in February, like before the combine, I think Harris identified this corner and said, this is a guy I think that would be really good for us and for this defense. And he fits the mold of the types of cornerbacks Dennis Allen likes. And you can just sort of start to grease the wheels here they're really excited about Frasier, even as just a 5th-round pick, as someone who can become something great. And he's physically similar to Al Harris. Dennis Allen, that's what Dennis Allen said. He talked about how, like, Harris and Zay Frasier are similar body types and similar styles of corners to what Harris was back when he played with the Green Bay Packers and others during his career. So there seems to be this kind of bond and a taking under the wings for Frasier that with Al Harris that the rookie himself explained during his press conference at rookie minicamp.
Dennis Allen's made the point that your frame is similar to Al Harris's. Just in what way has he already addressed that with you? And in what way do you think, like, his experience playing in the league, kind of with a similar frame, will help you?
Man, coach been helping me for sure. Getting my stance higher, not being too low when I'm first man and stuff like that. So being coached by him is really a blessing, for real.
He's somebody that stood on the table for you. I know Ryan Poles said he texted him about you in like February. Like, what's your relationship been like?
Man, ever since I took my first top 30 here, it's been great. It felt like I told him when I was here, it felt like home here. So it's great to be drafted by the team I wanted to be drafted by. So it's a blessing for me, for sure.
You have a guy like that who's obviously been experienced in this league and has coached for a while. Like, having him in your corner, what does that do for you as you're about to go through this rookie process?
Oh, it definitely boosts my confidence because I got a coach that undid it too. So he just going to give me the game. I just got to add it to my toolbox and just be ready to work every day.
So despite just starting 1 year at UTSA, I think Frasier is coming in with a certain amount of confidence there. You can kind of hear it in his abilities. I mean, to be fair, he had 6 interceptions and 15 pass breakups in that 1 year as a starter, but he was in college for 6 seasons. Southern Illinois as a redshirt freshman, like his true freshman year, he redshirted at Southern Illinois, then goes to community college for 2 years, and then is at UTSA in 2022, 2023, and then 2024. First team all conference, led the conference in interceptions, set a single season interception record for the school, like had a phenomenal final season, played the East West Shrine game, but he's an older prospect at 24, turns 25 in October here. And so it's not as though he's some young guy that is totally raw and needs to develop, but at the same time hasn't played a ton of starting experience kind of snaps. So there is technique work to do there. Like you said, kind of keeping his pad level down. Because like Al Harris, he's a taller, longer, leaner cornerback. And that's kind of the knock on Frasier, besides the lack of experience, is that he weighed in at like 186 pounds at the combine. He's slender, and more physical wide receivers can kind of push him off on their routes and outbody him for catches and balls. And I think there's some like zone coverage pattern instincts and route recognition kind of awareness that he needs to continue to work on, more eye discipline. And I think some of that just comes from the lack of experience there that he can continue to get better. But you can get the feeling like, man, if Al Harris really likes this guy and he fits more of what Dennis Allen likes, like not right away, but as we get towards the end of Tyreek Stevenson's rookie contract, if he doesn't take that step forward and look like a guy who improves, well, then maybe they move on. And same thing with if Terrell Smith is in that same conversation. If he improves and can look like a starting caliber cornerback, well, then he can get a contract extension to be the starter. But maybe, just maybe, Zay Frasier is waiting in the wings there. Like, if you look at them physically, Frasier offers a little bit more of that length and height, at least, that than any of these other guys. You kind of forget that like Terrell Smith is like 6'1.5", but he's kind of the tallest of the rest of the cornerback group. He's the biggest at 6'1.5", 204 pounds, and he's got decently long arms at 32 7/8 inches. But Jalen Johnson and Tyreek Stevenson are 6 foot flat, both under 200 pounds, both under 33-inch arms. Kyler Gordon's 5'11", under 200 pounds. Like, yeah, Frasier is the lightest at 168, but he's 6'3". He's got 33-inch arms. Like there's good length there to match up with taller, bigger wide receivers. You want to add the bulk and you want to add the strength, of course, and that's going to be a key part of this without sacrificing too much speed. But he's got the man coverage instincts and physicality to match if he could just kind of get his body there along the way. So maybe it takes him a year to kind of bulk up on the NFL weight plan, but just down the line a little bit. He's got the length. He's got the height. And Stevenson being in year 3 of his 4-year rookie deal, like it's not that next year Stevenson's gone and next year Terrell Smith's gone, but start to just grease the wheels here. And if he's kind of the coach's favorite, if you will, I mean, that's probably unfair to claim, but like he was certainly a draft favorite of this coach. And it's like his little project. That's also kind of demeaning, but it's, it's the coach's project, not little project, but you know what I mean, right? It's his 5th round pick that he's kind of special project that he's working on. I just wonder if there's visions of, if Stevenson and Smith don't improve this year, that in the long term, Frasier could be someone they see as a future starter on this defense coming from the 5th round.
Dennis Allen's made the point that
the odds are certainly against any 5th round pick developing into a high quality future long term starter necessarily, but the endorsement from the coach goes a long way, and I'm gonna be curious to watch and gonna be following closely what Zay Frasier does early on right away. If that speed that Dennis Allen wants to see shows up a little bit more there, or if, hey, you know what, Tyreek Stevenson and Terrell Smith, one and or both, step up, settle in, and play a lot better this season, then maybe Frasier is a bench player for a while and a special teams guy, and that's perfectly fine too. I don't think that's a horrible outcome for the Bears for a 5th round pick there. So just want to keep tabs on that as another day 3 draft pick kind of athlete that you can see the potential for, but don't want to get too carried away right away in week 1, kind of like Ruben Hyppolite at the linebacker position. If the Bears make any additions at linebacker or at safety or at pass rusher or at running back or anywhere else on this roster, you can be sure we'll break it down for you right here on the Locked On Bears podcast. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, because that's going to be the best way to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making Locked On Bears your first listen today. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and that means all of your teams every day. All your favorite NBA, NHL, MLB, and of course NFL teams are covered daily here on the Locked On Podcast Network, plus a bunch of college teams across the country. So go make another Locked On podcast your second listen today, now that we're finishing up Locked On Bears. Just make sure you come on back tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Bears. We're going to break down the Bears' schedule as it's released Wednesday night and everything you need to know about the slate of games coming up this year. And I hope that each time you get a chance to tune in, it just helps give you another opportunity to bear down.